for the candidate. The topic, spending and the national debt. Chris.
Thank you, Senator Santorum. You say that Republicans should refuse to raise the debt limit unless Democrats agree to take out all funding for Obamacare. Is ending or at least blocking or defunding Obama health care reform more important than letting the country, than keeping the country from default? And also, how do you defend your plan on Medicare to turn it into a voucher system, not 10 years from now, as Paul Ryan suggests, but right away for seniors who are already in the program?
Well, what I would say is that we are at a critical time in our country with debt, and we have a program that is going to explore the debt even further, and even more important than debt, what Obamacare does is shift this fundamental belief of our founders, that our country was created to make sure that people are free. That's what exactly America is about. It's about keeping people free and giving them the ability to provide for themselves. What Obamacare does for the first time, it creates a broad-based entitlement for every working American, not people on the margins of life, but it takes control of people's lives in a very, very important part, which is their health. And to me, it's a game changer, and it has to be stopped. It's the most important issue that faces this country right now, and we have to, as conservatives and Republicans, we have to stand up and say, no, we are not going to let this bill be implemented. We are not going to let government take control of our lives, be in a position where we are addicted to a drug of government for every working man and woman in this country. It must be stopped, and we should do it now.
Congressman Paul, you routinely vote against raising the debt limit. Would you let the country go into default, which all the experts agree will only make continued borrowing even more expensive for the U.S. government? And you want to cut government spending, you say, by 50%, eliminating everything from the Federal Reserve to the Department of Homeland Security. That's what you need for the federal government to do.
Yeah, it's sort of like default the Constitution, and then we wouldn't have this kind of problem. National defense, but you don't have militarism and you police the world. Maybe we could take care of some people back here at home if we weren't spending $1.5 trillion a year on our militarism. We would have more defense, not less defense. So I don't see why we should raise the national debt. You say, well, default, probably not. They have money coming in. They can patch it over and pay it, but that's the only way they're going to get a message. But it's nothing new. Our country has defaulted 3 different times. They promised at one time during the Civil War to pay in gold. They refused to. In the 30s, they promised to pay in gold. They refused to. And then in 1971, they promised to pay foreigners in gold. We defaulted, and we stuck it to them. So once again, we're going to default. We're defaulting every single day. That's what your prices are doing. Prices go up. They're defaulting on your money. So we need to look at the Federal Reserve System.
Wanted us to ask about this subject. You say abolish the IRS and impose a fair tax, which is essentially a national sales tax of 23%. But the experts say to generate enough revenue, Americans would have to start paying taxes on new home sales. They'd have to start paying taxes on rentals. They'd have to start paying taxes on health care. And according to the experts, the practical effect of a fair tax would be a tax cut for the wealthy and a tax increase for the middle class.
Well, Chris, with all due respect, your experts are dead wrong, because I have studied the First of all, the law has already been written. It is 23%. Let's not leave out the most important part. It replaces all federal income tax that's being taken out of people's checks. It replaces the payroll tax that's being taken out of people's checks. That's the part that people often forget to miss. Now, depending upon how you define a windfall for the rich, it's also a bonanza for the not so rich because of the prebate. Every family deserves to get a prebate to offset taxes that would be paid on essential goods and services. That levels the playing field, in my opinion, and especially gives the not so rich an advantage that they don't have today under our current system. So yes, I strongly support totally replacing the current code with the fair tax.
the budget without raising taxes, but the National Conference of State Legislatures said that you used a lot of one-time fixes, such as taking $2 billion from the Obama stimulus plan and borrowing billions from local school districts. The bottom line is that you left your state after your term as governor with a projected deficit of $6 billion, sir.
Chris, I was governor for the state of Minnesota for 8 years, over 4 two-year budget cycles. Every budget during my time as governor was balanced, and the last one of those 2-year budgets ends this coming summer on June 30th, and it's going to end up in the black. Now, when they talk about this projected deficit coming up in the next 2 years after that, it assumes a 25% or so increase in state spending. That's outrageous. If they live within their means, there would be no deficit at all. And by the way, the Democrats in Minnesota wanted more spending. So this idea that there's a deficit and I left it in Minnesota is not accurate. This 2-year budget cycle ends in the black this summer, and the 2 years after that is a projection, and it's based on preposterous assumptions.
If I may make a follow-up, and you have 30 seconds to answer this, sir. One of the reasons that people talk about a projected deficit of $6 billion is because of all the borrowing you took from local school districts, and as a result, the state has to pay back the local schools $4 billion.
Well, actually, the deferral of those payments to schools was something that I wanted to make permanent through an executive action called unallotments, and asked the legislature to make them permanent. They refused, and this is a matter of public record. So they're the ones who chose to do it one time. By the way, in this session, now it looks like they're going to make them permanent. They should have done it when I asked them to do it the first time.
Governor Johnson, I'm glad to get to you, sir.
Great, thanks.
There you go. You say that Medicare and Medicaid should be cut almost in half, turned into block grants, and that the state should in effect run health care. Won't Democrats be able in the 2012 campaign to tell seniors, if they follow your plan, that the Republicans want to take away their Medicare?
Well, first of all, we're on the verge of a financial collapse. And I say that from the standpoint that we owe $14 trillion, and there's no way we repay that, given the fact that we have $1.65 trillion in deficit spending this year, last year, the year before, and years to come. So we need to balance the federal budget. And to do that, we need to start out by talking about Medicaid and Medicare. And I think by cutting Medicaid and Medicare by 43%, block granting the states 50 laboratories of innovation, all out in this notion of best practices, would in fact develop best practices for the delivery of health care to the poor and those over 65. And that if we don't do this, we're going to find ourselves bankrupt, which is where we're finding ourselves. In New Mexico, as governor of New Mexico, Medicaid was fee-for-service. I changed that to managed care. It was a 25% savings. If I would get Medicare, I could have implemented that same 25% savings. Federal government do away with the mandates and the strings, 43% doable.
Thank you, sir.
Governor, we promise you'll be fair and balanced with the question time.
Fair and balanced.
That's what I was thinking. Shannon Breen has the next round of questions on immigration. Jeff.
Thanks, Brett. Mr. Kane, you have said that sometimes states should be empowered to enforce laws the federal government will not. When it comes to Arizona's controversial SB 1070 immigration bill, Congressman Paul has said laws like that can be harmful, even dangerous to innocent Americans. Did Arizona go too far?
I don't believe Arizona went too far. Let's first make sure that we're talking about solving the right problem. The immigration issue in America is not one problem. It's 4 problems. It's securing the border, enforcing the laws that are there, promoting the path to citizenship that we already have. We don't need a new path. We've got to clean up the bureaucracy in the process. And then number 4, this is where I believe you empower the states to do what the federal government cannot and is not doing. So no, Arizona did not go too far. They were simply trying to protect themselves. I believe in empowering the states